toads. Cute, right? Just look at these little balls of happiness. You just want to give them a hug. But behind these cute but cold-looking eyes is a dark side, a secret identity buried in this facade of happiness. These toads are sometimes forced to the edge when Bowser comes in and attacks the kingdom once again. And then they go all out. Well, that's what you would assume, right? There must be some sort of toad army or defense force, right?
Yes, precisely.
And today we will talk about them. What kind of army does the Mushroom Kingdom have? What can they improve? And what do they even use? Well, let's find out. Now, in the games, we rarely see any toads doing something useful, let alone as soldiers of some sort. Usually, they just stand around and do little to nothing. Only a few will actually help you in some way. So, are there any toad warriors then? Well, yes, but they aren't seen in a lot of games. They are known as toad guards and serve as the protectors of the Mushroom Kingdom as well as Princess Peach. Now, typically they wield a spear and shield, and their uniform is a classic mantle. So in a lot of ways, they look like Spartans, which I find pretty funny. And these shields have Peach's symbol, her crown, on the front. Overall, it's really a stunning look. Now, they were first seen in Super Mario Galaxy walking around a town right before Bowser attacks at the beginning of the game. And just like normal Toad citizens, these guards are not particularly brave, often asking Mario or other heroes to complete dangerous missions instead of doing it themselves. It's really bad, to be honest. Almost all of them would rather hide than fight. Most members of the Toad Brigade have more courage. For example, when Bowser launches an attack on Peach's castle during the Star Festival, one of the guards asks Mario to protect the princess. But that's the Toad's job. He's one of the official royal guards of Peach, but he does nothing. This already says enough. Heck, one of them even hides behind Peach when Bowser hovers in front of her balcony, which was probably very scary for them, because they basically bombarded the whole town and killed hundreds, but still, it shows that they aren't really heroes. Every time it comes down to the Toads to save Peach, it doesn't end very well. Even outside of the Super Mario series, we see more than enough Toads who clearly aren't heroes. For example, in Paper Mario, we have Feisty, a very nervous and neurotic guard standing at the entrance of Forever Forest in the first Paper Mario title. Now, his name is a pun on the word feisty, but his personality is the exact opposite of feisty, and that's because he is really scared of ghosts, making him very inept for his guard position of Forever Forest. In the game, he insists to Mario that he saw a ghost and is too terrified to do his job. He doesn't want to enter the forest to investigate any of it. Now, in the end, it was just a boo and there wasn't a whole lot going on. So he was scared for nothing. So, are there any toads that do protect the Mushroom Kingdom? And what else do they use to protect themselves? Well, as far as we've seen, the normal toad guards won't save the day. They basically do nothing. Aside from that, they do create strongholds like castles, and they also make walls with big steel gates to keep enemies out. So they do some sort of protect the kingdom, but still at the end of the day it does look like it all comes down to Mario and Luigi. But in Super Mario Galaxy we did see a group known as the Toad Brigade, who venture out into space with their own spaceship, collecting stars along the way for Mario as a way to help. They were the first to do something, unlike the guards who were seen earlier in the game, and this was the start of it all. From this point onward, more and more Toads rose up to defend the homeland, because they have a prominent role in New Super Mario Bros. Wii, Super Mario 3D World, and a whole lot more games. And in these titles, they fight the Koopa Troop forces and help save the princess. So clearly, they can be heroes. So knowing that, could we someday see a real Mushroom Kingdom army? And if so, what would it look like? Well, when it comes to this, we could see some really interesting things. Let's just imagine that most Toads become more courageous. They won't run away in fear, but will actually do something. Just like the Toad Brigade and the Toads seen in the new Super Mario Bros. Titles. So let's start with their foot soldiers. When it comes to this, they will probably stick with the standard guards. So they would use a spear and shield, which is not bad actually. They can block attacks like fireballs and can stab enemies. And those spears would also be useful if someone tried to ground pound on top of them. The biggest problem they have is their fear, but But if that's not a problem anymore, they would have an amazing matchup against Goombas and Koopa Troopas. They would have an effective attack after all, and toads are a lot better at jumping and running than most people think. But obviously you can do more with them than just this. Why not create a special class of toads that use power-ups? In a way, they would be similar to what Bowser does with the Hammer and Boomerang Bros. We've seen in games like New Super Mario Bros. That toads can use power-ups and are able to take out enemies with them quite easily. And apparently they could even produce power-ups for these special troops. They have a ton of them in toad houses after all, and you can even grow them. The tail tree is a good example. This is a special tree which bears super leaves on its branches. It's native to the Mushroom Kingdom and is even located in front of Peach's castle, which we see in Super Mario 3D Land. So they could, for example, use the leaves from this tree to give their toad soldiers a bit of a power-up. And if this works with the super leaves, then why not do the same with ice and fire flowers? Those are even more powerful after all. And these toads could have a very special role in the army. Heck, they could even be sent on special missions with Mario. The ones we see in the co-op Mario games already do a really good job and are on the same level as Mario and Luigi. And maybe they could finally do something if Bowser invades with his armies. I think they would be able to take on almost all of Bowser's troops. But there are still some things missing. Sure, the powered-up toads and guard toads with their shields and spears are good, but the Koopa Troop still has an edge over them. And that's because they still have a lot of cool tech, like tanks, airships, cannons, and bill blasters, all of which are very effective at taking out either Mario or any other enemy, or to destroy any buildings like we see in Super Mario Galaxy. So could the Mushroom Kingdom develop their own defensive and offensive weapons to counter all the Koopa machines? Well, maybe. The Toads aren't really tech geniuses after all. We've seen them build normal buildings like walls, castles, and more. Aside from that, they have electricity and some technology like street lanterns, so they can create some stuff. And I bet if they took the time, they could create all kinds of things, especially with the help of Professor Egad. He has created ghost-catching machines, magic paintbrushes, special orbs that can make you invincible and immune to traps, and more. If he was in charge, he could create powerful water cannons that would drive away enemy forces. And that's just one idea. And to be honest, they would really need to do this in order to get close to the Koopa Troop in terms of power. Because otherwise, they can just roll in with a bunch of airships, destroy half of the town, and still kidnap the princess. However, aside from that, they could also add another thing to their ranks that the Koopa Troop don't have. And personally, I find the idea quite amazing. Some sort of toad cavalry that rides on the back of Yoshis. We know they can do it since we've seen it in the games, and the Yoshis also hate Bowser and his followers. So I bet they would love to help out, especially if this toad army would also defend places where the Yoshi live. Then they would have a personal stake in it. Aside from that, I also think they would be incredibly effective. Having a Yoshi certainly gives you an advantage in both platforming as well as taking on enemies in the world. Heck, even when you're fighting a boss, having a Yoshi is incredibly handy. So I bet a toad would also benefit from it a lot. And if they would give these toads a spear and shield just like the guards, then they would be ready for battle. It would also allow them to use these for cavalry strategies, which usually involve overpowering your enemies with the size and speed bonus a mount would give you. So I bet adding this would make the Toad army perfect. They have literally everything at that point. And hey, maybe Bowser will have a harder time if they actually did all these things. It would certainly be an improvement over the current guards. And who knows, maybe we will see stuff like this in the future. They could create some sort of strategy game around it, similar to Bowser's Minions after all. But, knowing Nintendo, we can never be certain. Thanks for watching, everybody. Be sure to let me know down below in the comments what you think. Leave a like because it really helps with the algorithm, and click subscribe and the bell because then you won't miss anything.